I'm Blurbox. So today we're talking about Project Windless, Krafton's newly re-revealed single-player open-world action RPG set in the universe of the Korean fantasy novel series, The Bird That Drinks Tears. And if you saw the trailer, you already know why the internet's been loud. Yes, the main character is basically a legendary bird warrior, and no, it's not a joke game. It's actually being positioned as a serious, big-budget action RPG with huge battles. What I want to do in this video is to keep it very simple. What the game is, what it's trying to do, and what we actually know for sure, and then I'll give my first impressions, what looks promising, and what I'm watching closely for. At the highest level, Project Windless is a premium single-player open-world action RPG, and Krafton's being pretty clear that it's not a live service thing. No always online, no season pass roadmap, just story, exploration, combat, and big battles. The world is pulled from The Bird That Drinks Tears, which is a well-known fantasy series in Korea. But here's the most important part. The game is not directly adapting the novels. It's set roughly 15 years before the events of the original story, basically using the setting and the mythos, but telling its own story in a more mythic age time frame. You play as the Hero King, and he's from a race called the Rekon, these huge humanoid bird warriors. In the reveal materials, they describe the Rekon as basically built for close quarters combat, strength, size, and reach. And the setting has 4 intelligent races: humans, Rekons, Nhaga, and Tokkebi, each with their own cultures and conflict. My first impression here is I actually like when fantasy commits to being fantasy. Don't just give me humans with slightly pointy ears. If they really lean into how different these races are, politics, beliefs, and how they fight, how they live, that's the kind of world building that makes an open world RPG feel like it has personality. So the big headline feature they're pushing is something they call mass technology. The idea is you're just not fighting 3 enemies at a time and then a boss. You're often fighting dozens, sometimes hundreds of enemies in real time. If you've ever played Dynasty Warriors, that's the closest quick reference for the scale. But Windless is still pitching this as an action RPG. So I'm curious if these crowds are actually dangerous or if they're mostly there for spectacle. And they're claiming these crowds aren't just background animation. They're meant to move, flank, surround, react, basically battles that feel chaotic and alive. They also mentioned massive creatures showing up in these fights too, which makes me think it's not only army versus army, but also army versus monster. And if you're in the middle of it, and importantly, combat is described as real-time, fast-paced, skill-based, and you're fighting distinctly inside the chaos, not commanding from the distance like a strategy game. This is the part that can make or break the whole game, because big battles can mean 2 different things. It looks big, but it plays like you're fighting a few real enemies and the rest are basically set dressing. And then secondly, it's actually big and the battlefield has real pressure. You're reading threats, repositioning, picking targets, trying to not get swarmed. Project Windless is obviously aiming for number 2, and if they pull that off, it could feel really different from the usual action RPG loop. They've also described it as a player-driven, non-linear open world where your decisions shape alliances and impact the broader conflict. And they frame the whole game around this continental spanning war where your actions influence how things unfold. Now, whenever I hear your choices shape the world, I automatically think, okay, but how much? Is it a big story branch? Is it a faction reputation? Or is it more like you choose who to help so this city changes hands? Or is it smaller, like different side quests open up? We don't have the full details yet, so I'm not going to oversell that, but the fact that they keep repeating alliances and factions tell me we should expect some type of relationship system and political consequences tied to the war. Right now, it's confirmed in development for PlayStation 5 and PS5 Pro, and multiple outlets also report PC and Xbox Series X and S as target platforms. Development is being led by Krafton, Montreal Studios, collaborating with teams in Pangeo, South Korea. They also specifically call out cultural authenticity and Korean myth influences as part of the approach. That premium single-player language matters to me because it usually means we're aiming for a complete game at launch that stands on its own, and in 2026, that's an incredibly refreshing feeling. So a quick history lesson: this project's been cooking for a while. This isn't a brand new reveal out of nowhere. Krafton has been working on Windless for years in different forms. Back in 2022, Krafton released a visual concept trailer created in Unreal Engine 5, and they highlighted that the world and character designs were based on a concept work by Ian McCragg, a big-name concept artist with a serious film background. So when you see people saying, why does this look so cinematic? That's part of the reason. What I like so far: number 1, the identity is strong. a lot of fantasy games blur together. This one immediately has a look, a tone, and a what is that world factor. Between the Rekon, the atmosphere, and the scale, it doesn't feel like a copy-paste setting. Number 2, the scale pitch is interesting. If mass technology is real and not marketing fog, this could feel closer to you are a legend on a battlefield instead of you are a guy who politely waits for enemies to take turns. And number 3, single player focus. I love co-op games, but sometimes I just want that crafted, story-driven experience, and they're being direct about it not being a live service game. What I'm watching closely: number 1, how does the open world actually play? Is it more like a narrative-driven open world with hubs and major zones? Or is it a full-on walk anywhere, stumble into war fronts with factions fighting dynamically? Both can be good. I just want to know what kind of open world we're getting. Number 2, combat depth versus spectacle. Big crowds are cool, but I need to see how the game keeps combat skillful over time. Do we have stance systems, weapon variety, enemy variety that forces different approaches, boss designs? Because fighting 200 enemies only stays fun if the game gives you tools that are meaningful and provides you decisions moment to moment. And lastly, number 3, performance. When you promise hundreds or thousands of units on screen, that's where frame rates go to die, if it's not optimized like crazy. So I'm hoping the next footage we get includes real gameplay segments that show stable performance and not just cinematic shots. So what do we expect next? Krafton also released the developer diary alongside the reveal, and they've got the official site up for the update. So my guess is we're going to get a slow drip of content, more world explanation, more combat breakdown, how the faction and choice system works, and eventually a release window. And until we see extended gameplay, that's really the main missing pieces. Project Windless has my attention, not because it's the next big thing automatically, but because it's trying to do something that's a little different inside the action RPG space. Huge real-time battles, a very specific fantasy ID, and a single player structure that isn't trying to sell you a lifestyle. Now we just need to see the game played. If you've had the pleasure of making it this far in the video, like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss the next video, and drop a comment below. Does mass technology battle scale actually excite you, or do you think it's going to turn into a button mashing chaos? And also, are you more interested in the big war battles or the lore and the full race politics side of the world? I'm Blurbox, a random dude on the internet. Other than that, I'll check you out in the next one. Peace.